Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Then check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something to inspire you. That's dealtohealteas.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.com. Again, that's dealtohealteas.com. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Hey, welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you listen, like, subscribe, and share our podcast on all of your social media platforms. Also, make sure that you guys check out our new YouTube channel, which is the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. We decided to give you guys multiple podcasts, and so instead of making multiple pages, we just turned our page into a podcasting network. So make sure you guys go to the Deal to Heal to the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube, where you will find the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, as well as the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Both of them are there, as well as two other podcasts that we have, and there are more podcasts to come. So make sure you guys go again to the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube in order to stay up and to all of our current episodes and our podcast for the future. All right. So our product of the week, as you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast, and the way that we stay on the air is by bringing you amazing products for you to purchase. And so our product of the week is our purpose journal and our purpose planner, because I believe we should journal in order to see where we've been and where we are, as well as plan for our future. So you guys can look in the descriptions of the show notes, whether you're watching this on YouTube or whether you're listening on your favorite podcasting platform. Go into the descriptions and check out the link to get our purpose journal or our purpose planner. Both of them are available on Amazon. The links are in the descriptions. All right. So today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, Miss Kira. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How are you doing, Ernest?
I am good. First of all, let me say thank you for being on, because you could have been doing anything else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners, and we definitely appreciate it. And so we're going to jump right into it. Do me a favor, introduce yourself to my audience and tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me on. I love to talk to people, so this is one of the highlights of my day today for certain. So I feel like my description of myself and who I am in the world changes all the time because there's just so much, and I'm sure that's the case with almost everybody, right? But yeah, I first and foremost, I am a mom. I have a 1 year old and a 3 year old, and that is what the majority of my days these days are spent doing. Right, is momming. I do stay at home with them during the day, and my luckily my husband works from home, and so we're able to kind of toggle them back and forth as needed. But that takes up a huge chunk of my day these days. Outside of that, I own a few companies. I own Comfy Fitness, which I've owned for 17 years. And Comfy Fitness now, there's been many iterations of that business, but is now an online restorative movement platform where we do weekly live classes for our membership. And then, of course, they can watch those replay videos on demand. We do things like I teach clinical essential somatic movement. My business partner teaches TRE, which is a tremoring modality. And all of our modalities on that platform interact with the nervous system, which is largely, I think, what we'll be talking about today, and why that's helpful. But we do intuitive dance on that. We do restorative somatic yoga on that platform, and then I do a somatic strength class as well. And that's what we have on there right now. But we've had up to 14 classes in a week. During COVID, it was incredibly helpful for many people to be jumping on that platform. And COVID was largely what shaped that platform into what it is today, because we used to have a fitness facility in the Bucktown Wicker Park neighborhood of Chicago for many years. So that is that company. I love it. I started it when I was 25 years old. And like I said, there's been many iterations of it. I also own a business called Kimbra. And Kimbra is a business that helps creatives, entrepreneurs, really anybody who's up to anything like creating things in life, help them increase their resources of people, time, and money. And we do that through ritualistically getting together in community to focus on that resource. I personally lead the time bender space. So I am a little curious about your planner and your because I'm a total like planner, like crazy person. I love planners, right? If like I could turn my camera and show you my line of planners from years past, I would. But yeah, I do lead the time bender space where I help people expand their sense of time. I also, do personal coaching around that stuff. I do, obviously, not obviously, but one-on-one also through for fitness and somatic movement through my brand new business, Mindful Somatic Fitness. And the only reason there's a brand new business is because Comfy Fitness no longer offers in-person one-on-one anymore, and so I generated that business to more fully display what it is I do inside of my work. Another huge piece of my life is I am a political activist. I have been involved in political activism and organizing. Technically, I guess you could say since 2003, when I went to intern in DC, and that was when the war in Iraq was starting, and I marched against that war, and I think that was really what radicalized me to become an activist and then ultimately an organizer. And today, I've worked with many different organizations with a few different projects. But today, since 2016, I've been working with the People's Lobby, and I work on their healthcare task force. And we're working to get universal healthcare within the next 8 years in the United States. And we're working with a coalition of 27 other organizations across the United States. 27 right now. We're building to make that happen. And we're pretty freaking serious. I am the base builder for the healthcare task force of the People's Lobby in Chicago. And yeah, we're building power. So if that's something that interests you, call me. Uh, but the People's Lobby, through like coalition building with other organizations, we've done some pretty huge things in the state of Illinois, including we had a hand in passing CEJA, which is the Clean Energies and Job Act. And one of my personal close, near and dear to my heart, this is a campaign that I worked on for a long time, is getting rid of bail in the state of Illinois. So, because I don't believe that people should be in prison because they can't afford to get out of jail. I think that's. Can I cuss on this podcast?
I'd rather not, but
All right, because I was just about to, and I was like, wait a minute, okay. And I think that's BS, is what I was gonna say. So there's that, and then I also have a part-time gig writing for a magazine here in my area of Oak Park River Forest, right outside of Chicago. And that's the bulk of what I do. There's all kinds of other things that I'm involved with, but that's the bulk of it. Yeah, it's a lot.
good. I'll say one thing: you're definitely busy.
It's true. It's true, and I've always been busy. When I before I had kids, and when I was thinking about having kids, people would tell me like, oh, like it's going to be something. You're going to be busier than you've ever been. And I was like, I can't imagine that, and while like my bandwidth for other things has gotten smaller, I don't really feel busier because before COVID, I woke up at 4:30 every morning. I would put on a full face of makeup, people. I didn't even put on makeup for this interview. I put a full face of makeup and like ride my bike 40 minutes to go train, someone at 5:30 or 6 in the morning in a totally different neighborhood. So, and my day all day would be jam packed until I got home at 8 or 9 at night. So, yeah, it's just been the way I've lived my whole life.
Right. Yeah, people tell me I got a lot going on. I'm like, not really.
Sometimes I tell people, and it's nearly unbelievable when I like to me, when I talk about it. I'm just like, how do I do all this?
Right. And the crazy part about it, you didn't even mention what we do together. Right.
That's what I said. Like I have so my hand in so many things. Yeah. And I
So we
love.
met through a mutual friend. Shout out to Khalida Javon, and the Forgiveness Mission, which I'll talk about later on today. But we got introduced through Khalida, and I remember our first phone call. You called me one day. It was like, we met, but we have never really had a conversation. I think we stayed on the phone for like an hour, almost an hour and a half. Just talking about everything.
Yeah.
So that was so cool. And so again, we met through, well, before we even we met through Khalida with the Forgiveness Mission. When you came aboard and bringing the somatic fitness portion of that, or should I say, forgiveness in our bodies. I think that's that we called it. And you became a part, and you brought that to the Forgiveness Mission workshops that we do. But before we go there, let's go back a little bit to what even intrigued you to even start that. You know what I mean? Like, what was the thing that kind of got you involved with that whole thing? And then explain to us, to my listeners, excuse me, what somatic movement is and the whole notion behind it.
Yeah, it's really strange because I learned about clinical. It's the full title of my certification is Clinical Essential Somatic Movement Teacher. Okay, so it's a mouthful. It's also known as HANA Somatics, which is so much more beautiful and lovely. But saying clinical essential somatic movement makes it sound more official, so that's what I use. And basically, I caught on to clinical essential somatic movement back in 2016. I was already a fitness trainer. I've been teaching functional fitness since 2007. And when you're in the fitness industry, you have to get certifications and recertified like every 2 years. And so I had tons of certifications: kickboxing, Pilates, body sculpt, general group fitness, all of that stuff, just to keep mostly my group certification up to date. And through all of those modalities, one thing kept becoming very obvious to me. And that was the fact that there were just some movements, regardless of modality I was working with, that some people couldn't do. And they would be like, it's not like crazy things like doing the splits or something. It's like bringing your arm all the way like to line up with the side of your body, right? Little things where I'm just like, how do you reach behind you? And why am I putting weights in your hand when you can't even reach into the back seat of your car, right? Like it all just felt really wrong to me. And my fitness business, Comfy Fitness, has veered off the beaten path so many times, and it's been one of one of our one of our Achilles heels, right? Is that we've pushed against the fitness industry so much, so frequently, that a lot of times people never really understood what we were doing. For example, in 2012, we took weight loss off of our menu of offerings. It's like, we don't offer weight loss anymore. Now, what fitness business does not offer weight loss, right? And we just found that it was malarkey thinking that us seeing somebody once or twice a week was going to help them lose weight. Exercise isn't even the most direct, route there, but all these exercise professionals are selling weight loss, and it wasn't working out for us for a lot of reasons, and I won't get into those reasons. So we just took it completely off of our menu. But the issues, with mobility and putting weights in people's hands, or having people do advanced exercises without actually having a posture that had integrity, was really not an integrity for me as a trainer. And so my business partner was a ballerina for years, and she had a lot of back pain because of her time as a ballet dancer. And so she was always looking for pain reduction, pain loss modalities. And she found clinical essential somatic movement. And when she came back from a weekend-long workshop for it, she was like, Kira, you are going to love this. You need to get certified in this. And all she basically said was like, it's basically a modality of movement that helps you connect with subconsciously held tension in your body and release it so that you can have a full range of motion and movement. And I was like, oh, and the way it was described to me, in one of my first lessons was, you think of somebody with a bowing posture in the front, like their chest is really short in the front, their back is kind of spread out. A regular fitness instructor or trainer would say, you need to strengthen your back, right? And that's the conversation we've heard for decades. If you have crappy posture, strengthen your back. It's going to make your posture better. In clinical essential somatics, they say, well, strengthening the back could be a piece of it, but you need to actually release the muscles of your chest and of your stomach before that happens, because there's no strengthening that can happen if the back can't fully contract, right? Strengthening happens through contraction, right? And so if the chest isn't opening, the back's not getting stronger, you're compensating with other muscles, and you're never actually going to get to the level of strength that you want to get to. And so that's how it started. Like, literally, this journey started because I wanted my clients to have better form. I mean, so minuscule in what this practice actually does for people. But that was my little pathway, right? Into it. And then it opened up so many experiences, aha moments, just incredible ways of seeing the world. It was through my training. I went through my biggest existential crisis through that training. That training was wild. And it's really wild when you start to actually get into a somatic practice and getting in touch with yourself, because there are spaces and cavernous areas that so many of us have not explored. And then when we do, that awareness becomes the first step to our transformation.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because even though we we can't go anywhere without our bodies, right?
Yeah,
We
we're
can't
kind
go
of stuck
anywhere without our bodies and our mind, but rarely do we think of them together. You know what I mean? When we think of things that we're going through just on a day-to-day basis, when we start talking about stress and things like that, that is emotional and mental, but how much of that affects our bodies as a whole. You know what I mean? And so when we take out the time to really start diving into that, just like, okay, we know our body, mentally, we know our bodies and our minds are connected,
right.
but really taking the time to say, okay, well, if I'm thinking this, how does it affect me physically? If I'm feeling, depressed, how does that make my shoulders come in? You know what I mean? Because I'm feeling down. So now my body and my posture is actually bowing down because
Right.
I'm mentally feeling that way. And I don't think we really take the time to dive into that to really see what that's about. And so one of the things that you talk about is your body being, like a vessel, which we definitely know as a vessel. And those of us that grew up in church learned, it's a temple, right? So, but really, even if we think of it as being a temple, rarely do we take care of the temple like we do a physical temple. You know
Right.
what I mean? We don't take care of our bodies the same way. So, in just that concept of your body being this vessel of transformation, how is it that what would be kind of one of the best practices even for us to even come to that mindset and that understanding, like this is really your vessel that you have to operate in every day?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of modalities that help people get in touch with their body, right? Um, I love the modality I teach because it's directed at systems, right? So when I think of a class, for example, I usually will think of a system of the body that I want to work with. So,
Mhm.
obviously there's the muscular skeletal system,
Right.
which I'm very acquainted with. And then there's the fascial system, which we can play around with our movement. There are all kinds of different processes that our body is constantly going through. There's a digestive system, right? Could we actually tune into our digestive system and affect it through our mindfulness and through movement? Yeah, we certainly can. Um, and then there was one more system that I work with. Oh yeah, energetic systems, right? So I'm most acquainted with like the chakras. I'm trained in Reiki, so I'll utilize a lot of those things inside of a practice, right? And all it is really an exploration. So that's one of the key pieces when it comes to a somatic practice, whether it's somatic movement or just a somatic practice, because not all somatic practices are movement.
Mhm.
Meditation can be a somatic practice, right? I'll get into that in just a little bit, but I do think that when we add movement to our somatic practices, we actually do get into touch with our body at a much, I don't know, like larger, more robust, I guess, capacity, right? And when we can actually honor the body at the level that we honor our minds, right? Because we honor our minds like
Mhm.
crazy in our culture, don't we? Like the mind is so powerful. What? I mean, I could tell you, yeah, the mind is powerful, but it's also the part of us that gets us into the most amount of trouble as well.
Yeah.
Reason for that is because our programming starts really young. And that programming gets programmed down into our body. The reason that happens is because there are things in our life that are happening that we just need to categorize. We can't sit and actually process every single thing that's going around us, because that would be, we would never get anything done. We'd be like the most useless species on the planet if we had to process every single thing that was going on. So from a very young age, we actually start storing things into the body as automatic ways of being. Now, the issue we've had for a long time is we were giving the mind all of that glory, right? Oh, the mind is programming us, blah, 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 blah. No, the mind is programming the body. And then the body reacts about 250 times faster than the brain. So we're already in a situation, right? Think about a stressful situation. We're already clenching before we're out here reacting. Right? So it's the body that is running the show. Okay? I can't say it loud enough. And in a weird way, I guess it's kind of the mind, but the mind is let go of that automatic, already always way of being, right? It's let go of that. It lets the body take care of that so it can do the high level processing stuff that is necessary for us to have conversations like this, right? Or to think positive, right? Because thinking positive is a high level thing that humans need to use their frontal lobe for. Okay. So the mammalian brain right here at our top of our spine is just running the show, right? It's the body basically feedbacking to the brain. This is how we feel about this. React accordingly because we're in danger. We're in danger. We're mad. We got to fight. We got to flight. We got to freeze, right? All of these things, it all comes from our body. So if we're not actually softening the subconscious tension that comes up in our body when something happens that we're programmed to like react to, it's going to take a whole lot longer. You're going to have a lot more therapy sessions. I'll put it that way. So if we're not bringing our body with us on our transformation, we're leaving a lot of time on the table. You're not wasting your time by going to therapy and not doing body-based nervous system stuff. It's just going to take longer, and you may never actually get over that hump. That's why I keep telling Kalita, we need to name my portion of the forgiveness mission, forgiveness embodied, right? Because forgiveness embodied would be a neutral, soft, open body, right? Yeah. So that's what I'm out to do. I'm out to help people who are on a transformative journey connect to their body at a very deep level so that they actually know who they are and what they want. All of that, yeah, comes from the body.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that too because I don't think I don't think people know what they want anyway, just on a day basis. And not even talking about mindful stuff and body stuff. I don't think people know what they want, period. You know what I mean? And so now I'm in this space now where I've started being a mentor. Well, I was already a mentor, but I joined a mentor organization which mentors young boys. And that's one of the things too, is like you don't even know who you are because you're so bombarded with the media, social media, and all those things, with other people telling you who you are and telling you what you like and telling you what you think. You know what I mean? It's like, no, shut all of that off and ask yourself, who are you really? Like, what do you really want? What do you like? You know, and I don't think not just kids, I don't think adults really know what they want, you know, because again, we're so bombarded, especially as adults, when you got work and kids and family and social media, depending on how engaged with all of that you are, you know, you kind of lose yourself in all this stuff, you know, and so then you have to find yourself all over again. Like, okay, who am I? What do I really like? What do I really want? You know, how do I want to feel? And I don't think we address that enough either. You know, it's like, I want to be happy, or most people say, I want to be happy. Like, do you really? You know what I mean? And I say, do you really? Because it's like some people are like, oh, I want to be happy, but then the things that you are involved in, that you involve yourself in, don't make you happy. You know, like you're like super negative and gossiping all the time. Like, that's not gonna make you happy. You know what I mean? It's actually gonna have like the opposite effect, because it's going to start bringing you down because you got all this stuff going on. So yeah, I think that's a big part, that people really don't know what they want. just period.
I agree with that. And I'll even take it a step further and I'll say unhappiness has become conditioned, right? Like being happy is a weird thing to be this day and age, it feels like. You know what I like, doesn't it? Like there's a conditioning that says like there should be some lack of content that we have with our lives. Because if you're not dissatisfied with what's going on, then what, you don't have ambition? I don't know. I don't know what it is, right? But it's like if you're just a content person, then you're a little bit of an anomaly, in my opinion, and what I've seen, even inside of my own conditioning. When I met my husband, he was a highly content person. Now, you know, maybe not so much, but back then, he was just like just chill, highly content, loved his life. And I just thought that that was the weirdest thing because I'm constantly like striving for all of these things. And while I still do have that level of ambition, so much of where my ambition was, like where my focus was, has shifted because to your point, I started really getting a sense of what do I actually want? Why do I do all of this political organizing really? Right? You know, because I don't even think I was clear on why I was doing the things I was doing, even though those things were making me happy.
Mhm.
I didn't really know myself well enough to even understand that. So I do think that when people are out of touch with their bodies, they're out of touch with themselves, you know, and until you can actually feel like an authentic, like excitement arising about things or an authentic, like, no, thank you, right? Arising about things, we can't actually take part in a life that is created just for us, right? How many times have you been asked to do something, right? As I was saying, say no, right? How many
Right.
times have you been asked to do something and you're just like, I really want to say no, right? And then you like, then there's a guilty thing that comes in,
Yeah.
right? And that overrules your body being like, that's a no, my friend. That's a no, right? And what is that? That's conditioning. That's conditioning. And a lot of us may not notice that. A lot of us do notice it. But what happens when we rematrix that conditioning and actually honor what our body is saying instead of honoring what the world says we ought to be doing or should be doing?
Right, right, right. And I wanna talk a little bit about because when I think about it, being in touch with your body and your mental and your physical, right? I think about there's so many different avenues that's out there, like yoga and exercising and walking, which is one of the things I love. Getting into hiking now, just being outside. There's so many different things, but I don't think that people really understand just how much just movement affects your sense of peace. You know what I mean? Your sense of peace, your sense of being. Even in your mental space. So how would you even begin to teach us to understand about just how much the principles and our surrounding movement and understanding that and how much it affects our life just like on a day-to-day basis. You know what I mean? Because I know there are some of us that exercise, but I think when you connect the mental part of it with the exercise, I think that's when you get the most out of it. Right. So I used to walk all the time. Right. So I had a treadmill in my house. So I would do 30 minutes, running and walking on the treadmill every day. And then one day I was just like, oh, I'm gonna go walk around the park. And it was like my first time. Well, I won't say my first time, but it was the first time there was like an epiphany to me at this day because I'm going around this park, which is like it's a sort of a forest preserve like track
Mm-hmm.
thingy. And so I'm going around it and I don't even think I have earphones on. I was just like walking and just like the nature and being out there in nature. It like changed my whole mindset. Like I stopped
Totally.
even using my I stopped even using my treadmill. I'm like, no, I got to go outside now. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And so, but how would you even explain that, or to help us to even understand how important that is?
Yeah.
That movement is to our day-to-day happiness. We talked about happiness and just a living a fulfilled life.
Yeah. It's massively important. I mean, that was the answer everybody was expecting, but I can get into the why a little bit. And I think walking is one of the best modalities of exercise there is. I walk every single day.
Mhm.
During
Me
COVID,
too.
I walked like 5 miles a day outside every day, rain, snow, all of it. So walking is incredible. And you can do anything somatically, right? So whether or not you walk or run with headphones in, on a treadmill, all that stuff, that's going to be good for your body, regardless of whether or not you do it somatically, right?
Mhm.
Why is that? Well, the obvious processes of, increasing the heart rate, getting the blood flowing, pumping all of those like endorphins into your body. And then, of course, the whole idea of like building muscle, maintaining your youthfulness, right? Because if you don't, like with anything, if you don't use your body, you do lose. It does lose its capabilities, right? And so there is an actual youthfulness that gets maintained. And then there's all kinds of other research coming out right now that is mind blowing about movement. I think one of the latest studies that have been like popping up this year is about how exercise and movement literally builds brain cells in your brain. It's incredible. Like, wow, talk about staying young forever, that you could actually offset dementia and Alzheimer's and like brain related issues through moving your body. Now, I'm going to assert that adding somatics to that movement is going to make it that much more impactful. How do you add somatics to a walk? You just feel your body as you walk. There are, it seems so simple, and it's simple and it's not at the same time, right? Because there's like all these design, like I listen to political podcasts constantly. That's not somatic. That's me getting enraged by like what's going on politically, right? And so that I would not consider somatic, but I've certainly done somatic walks. And this might be a good thing to teach, maybe even in our forgiveness mission um, uh, uh, efforts. There are 5 channels through which we feel and experience ourselves. Okay. One of them is the mind. So the mind is a part of somatic sensory. The imagination is another channel that we can actually utilize, like that we can actually feel ourselves somatically through. Another one is sensations, right? And sensations can be anything like the wind or the air on your face, the clothes against your body, or sensations like how your breath feels, how if your tummy is gurgling, are you hungry, right? Sensations
Mhm.
can be clenched muscles, right? So sensations like sensorially, we can get in touch with our body as well. And then, like I always want to list things off, and then I always forget what they all are. So we have mind, imagination, sensory. Let me see. Posture. Posture is a big one. I happen to have them written down right next to me. So totally did not plan that, but thank goodness. Posture is a big one that you can tune into when you want to feel into how your body is feeling. I use posture all the time. I notice for me, when I'm feeling really stressed out, I really shorten right through my solar plexus. And when I notice I'm feeling a certain way, I might tune into that, or I might tune into that and then notice I'm feeling a certain way. And
Mhm.
all I'll do is take my hand and put it on my chest, and take my hand and put it on my belly, and then open, and then let that go, right? And it shifts everything that's coming up. That's a postural That's a postural somatic sensation. So that's one. And then emotions. Emotions are the other channel through which we can experience ourselves somatically. And all somatics it's a Greek word, and it means of the body. So it's basically like, what do you feel like? How do you feel right now? What's going on in your jaw? Is your butt clenched up? Is your belly pulling in? Are you arching in your back? Right? Does this make you think of anything? Are you feeling anything right now? These are all questions that you can ask yourself as you're doing whatever practice it is you're doing. So yeah, it's pretty easy to engage somatically, but if we're not used to it, it can be really, really hard. It truly can. I was with someone who was new to somatics last night, and I watched her the whole time, and I could tell she was not having a good time. Not having a good time.
Okay. Okay. So, Kira, before we get out of here, we've mentioned it quite a few times, the forgiveness mission and the forgiveness workshops that we work on. And so, when you came aboard, you brought forgiveness and the body and how it kind of affects the body. And so, just for our listeners, give us a little bit of the background of that with how it how does the somatics and the forgiveness go together, and why was it important for you to bring that to the forgiveness workshop?
Yeah, such a good question, Ernest. Really good question, because there's so many facets of that. So I'm going to say it again. I'm a political organizer. And I think the only way we are going to save ourselves is by forgiving each other, right? I think that we are a country divided right now. And I think that there's a lot of healing that needs to take place. And that's going to start with each one of us as individuals being able to let go of things, being able to take responsibility for things, all of the things that we know we need, but because our reaction channels are so much faster than our actual action channels, we keep getting into the same trauma responses, right?
Mhm.
Think about like us as individuals, and then think about us as a nation, and even us as a world, right? We're just a bunch of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn reactions, like going back and forth between each other. And that's why healing is such an important conversation, and that's why forgiveness for me is largely at the center of that. So first of all, secondly, I think that when you are holding a grudge, I I think it's one of the easiest ways into feeling yourself somatically. I mean, think about how you feel when someone walks into the room that you just can't stand, right? Or someone says something that's just like, whoa, right? You feel that, don't you? Right? So, forgiveness and the conversation about forgiveness is such a cool access point, right? We want to find access points, and we have to find those access points through the tension that we have. That's where we
Mhm.
find the access. Like Wonder Woman, how she runs into the danger, right? She doesn't run away from it, she goes into it. Even in my somatic practice, we flex and contract into the posture we already have so that we can let go of it. So, forgiveness is such a great access point because it's so super easy to identify a grudge in the body. Like, what a cool way to go, right?
Right.
And why is it important to just us as individuals, right? So, I took you from a world and came down to the individual view. Even if you don't care at all about what's going on politically in our world, and between people, that's fine. Do it for yourself, man. Because
Right.
when we hold grudges, when we hold tension in our bodies, subconsciously, consciously, whatever, when we get those hits of adrenaline, what's happening is that stress hormones are getting released into your body. And when you have ongoing high or low level stress, even if it's low level, even if it's just a boss you can't stand, right? Or a job that isn't really a good fit for you. Or maybe you haven't come out to your family about being gay, right? Whatever it is, there's a stressor there. And that stressor is pumping stress hormones into your system. When stress hormones are being constantly pumped into your system, you are constantly in a stress reflex, which basically means your digestive system stops working so well, your muscular system stops working so well. A lot of systems shut off when we're in stress reflex because we have to survive and run away or whatever it is, right? And so our literally the systems of our body, and that's, I started off talking about systems, right? The systems of our body start to shut down so that we can take care of the threat that is right in front of us. But that threat isn't actually a threat, really. And it's ongoing. It never actually goes away. So when we're able to release the subconscious tension, whether it's from forgiveness or holding a grudge, rather, or any of those other things I mentioned, and oodles beyond that, life. When we're able to let that go, we can start to let go of the process that shuts down our systems and makes us really sick, right? That's why you hear that 90% of illness comes from stress. I don't know if that's an actual true statement, but I can point to pretty much all illnesses and show at least a correlation between those illnesses and the stressors that those people carried. A book that I'm reading right now that demonstrates it really well is called The Myth of Normal by Kira Macoun. So if you are interested in the conversation about how our stress makes us sick and how our environment, like literal environment, but the world around us makes us sick, it's a very good book on that.
All right, I'm gonna write that down. The myth of normal.
The Myth of Normal. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Kira Macoun is a really pretty cool guy to follow.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna make sure I put the link to that book. I'm gonna look it up myself, but I'm gonna make sure I put the link of it in the description so that so my listeners can also look into it. Kira, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it. I want you to leave us with a word of advice or motivation or however you feel. And I want you to make sure that you leave us with your social media handles and excuse me, and also where we can find you and follow you or get in contact with you in order to work with you on some of the many projects that you have, the many things that you have going on. So
I will talk to you for an hour and a half. Trust me.
Right. So I want you to leave us with that information. I'll give you a couple seconds to think about that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the podcast. If you've thought about starting your own podcast, then you might want to get the copy of To Start Your Podcast Now ebook. I wrote this ebook because I was constantly being asked, how do I start a podcast? And so I wrote an ebook called The Start Your Podcast Now ebook in only 3 steps. So I broke it down as simple as possible for you to figure out what your podcast is going to be about, how I'm going to put it together, and put it all together with in less than 3. I'm not going to say less in 3 steps. In 3 steps, but there are some things that you have to think about with those 3 steps. But you can learn to start your own podcast by getting your copy of the Start Your Podcast Now ebook, which is available at ebooksbyejames.com. Make sure you guys check that out. Also, make sure you check me out at my personal website, which is the dealhealfulfill.org. Again, that's dealhealfulfill.org, which is our mission, my personal mission, and the mission of the podcast, which is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. So make sure you guys go there and check that out. You can see everything I have going on, products, workshops, speaking engagements. Also, there's a booking page where you can book me to come and speak at your church or organization or head a workshop, whatever it is that you need. Again, go to that website, dealhealfulfill.org, in order to check that out. Also, the ebooksbyejames.com. There's not only can you get the Start Your Podcast ebook, but we also have other ebooks available, including the Core 4, which is the 4 core values that every daughter should get from her father, which is one of the books that we talk about on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. So you guys want to make sure you check that out. And if you love the discussion, you can get your copy of the Core 4, as well as some of the other ebooks that I have available at ebooksbyejames.com. Again, that's ebooksbyejames.com. And check us out. Check out our inspirational t-shirt line, the deal to heal tees.com. That's deal to heal, deal, the number two, heal tees.com, deal to heal tees.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That is our tagline. Not only do we have our inspirational tees there, but we also have our podcast tees available also, which is a tees with our Girl Dad Discussions podcast logo, as well as the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast logo. So make sure you guys go to deal, the number two, healtees.com in order to check out our inspirational t-shirt line. And last but not least, you guys have heard us talk about it all through this whole podcast. I have been blessed to be a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops every other month talking about everything dealing with forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, forgiveness in our bodies, forgiveness in the world, just everything surrounding forgiveness. The events is 100% free. It's virtual, so you can take it on your phone or on your laptop. Whenever you're listening to this podcast, either a workshop just ended or there's one coming up. So make sure you guys go to forgivenessmission.com or just go to Eventbrite and look up Forgiveness Workshop held by the Forgiveness Mission in order to take part in those free engagements. Also, this year is actually be our second year doing the Surviving Suicidal Thoughts in-person event that we did. So we did it one last year. This year is our second year of doing it. I'm very excited about that, and looking forward to doing them every year. So that's we're going to plan on doing them every year. So make sure you guys go to forgivenessmission.com and sign up for the free virtual workshops that we do every other month, but also keep it to be able to keep an ear out for events that we will be having in the near future. So make sure you guys go and check that out. Again, that's the forgivenessmission.com. Kira, thank you so much once again for being on. Thank you for sharing your expertise. I want you to have the last word. So the floor is yours.
Floor is mine. So I was trying to think of something like super motivating to say, and I was just like, I'm just gonna relax my body. I'm just gonna relax my body, and whatever comes out is what comes out. And it got me to thinking about dualities, right? And how so much of in our lives is a duality, and I think at the core of a lot of our conversations, we find ourselves in an extreme on one side or the other. So when we talk about contraction and release, right, which is largely what I talk about inside of my work, right, fitness, and then essential somatic movement, which is all about releasing, just understanding that without one end of the duality, the other end of the duality doesn't exist. And that most of us, when we find happiness somewhere in the center of those dualities, or find comfort in the center of those dualities, that's when we really start to find peacefulness and happiness. So super random thought, but that's what came up. And I love talking about duality, so I'll throw that in here too. As you can see, I love talking about all kinds of topics. I love talking about the human condition. It is probably the most intriguing thing to me in my life. I think that humans are amazing and beautiful. And I think that all of us are really like, at our core, we're very good. I think that some of us lose our way a little bit, a lot bit. And I think that really, truly, when we can all find ourselves and find our own happiness, that's when real healing can happen. And it is unfortunate that we live in a world that doesn't, work hard to help us do that. And just keep plugging in, watching Ernest's podcast, coming to free events like the Forgiveness Mission and all of the many plethora of free events that healers online are giving right now. There is not a dearth of information out there. You can find it. So just plug in. If you don't know where to go or what to do or how to get connected, find the community that will help you get there, because that's really what's going to be helpful. Speaking of communities, right? I run many communities. So comfyfitness.com is my online restorative movement platform, where I teach Monday night clinical essential somatic movement. You should definitely try it out. It is for all levels of movement and fitness. It is highly meditative movement practice, and it's usually done lying down on a floor. Once in a while, I'll do a little bit standing up, a little bit seated, but most people want to lie down. So I give the people what they want. All right. So that's one. You can also find us on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and probably other places that I don't even know about anymore because we've been in business so long. So comfyfitness.com, Comfy Fitness. You can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook under Kira Macoun or Kira Elliott. I'm totally all over the place on there. So follow me. And then you can also reach out to me, Kira at comfyfitness.com. I'm super responsive to email. Plug into the Forgiveness Mission. Our next workshop is online on the 13th of October. And I believe it starts at noon. So mark your calendars, and then come into Kimbra. If you feel like you don't have enough time in your life, come over to my world. I will help you find that time. Because I promise you it is. Or maybe you're just doing a bunch of stuff you shouldn't be doing. So, because if you're not energized by the end of your day, right, we might need to find something else for you. So I think that's all the ways you can find me. There's probably, but those are surefire ways.
Right. I love it. So we can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.